have got a clutch cover for this Z750. We've got our engine number up top here. If you need to know what your engine number is, you'll find it here engraved on your actual crankcase. We've got our engine fill cap here. We've got our sight window here. We've got a little bit of a capacity, some numbers here. We've got oil capacity and liters. Filter not removed, 3.1. Filter removed, 3.3. Completely dry, full engine rebuild. We've got a 3.8. Now, I would like to hear from you guys. Do you feel like that is accurate? Do you feel like once you drain your oil, when you don't replace your filter, no idea why you would do that? Do not change your engine oil without replacing your oil filter. Is it going to hold 3.1? If you've changed your oil filter, will it hold 3.3? And if you have rebuilt your motor, does it hold 3.8? Comment below and let me know if that is true. A lot of times we find that those numbers are a little bit off, and I don't know why they are off, but sometimes they are, and I've seen it many, many times. So again, I'd like to hear from you guys. Do you feel like those numbers are completely accurate? If you are looking at a Z750, maybe read through these comments below, comment yourself, let me know what you think. Do you trust what is on the side of your motor for engine oil capacity? Should we trust those numbers? I don't know. You guys tell me. Maybe I'll tell you the answer at the end. If we're trying to get our cam chain out, you can remove this Allen bolt here. This guide is going to be able to pull out. We are going to do that because we're going to have to do that sooner than later anyways. 6mm Allen fits in there. I like to use a ratchet to start before using an impact on something like this. Once we've loosened it up, then I don't mind grabbing the impact. So I just don't like to use the impact right away. These tend to round off. We remove that, pull our cam chain guide out of there. This is obviously a specialty bolt. Make sure those stay together. If you've got a problem where this is slapping around in there, it could potentially be your guide is completely wallered out. More than likely your bolt isn't going to be completely worn down. So you may just need to replace that guide, not necessarily the bolt. But if you're doing one, you may as well do the other. That's always been my motto. So right underneath this cover here, down here is another sensor. And again, I'm just guessing on this one. Pretty sure this is going to be an oil sensor. Maybe low oil, maybe oil capacity sensor. I'm not totally sure. Use a pick, pry this rubber piece off here. And underneath, you will find a Phillips screw. Take a Phillips screwdriver, loosen that up, and that's all you have to do is loosen it up, and you're able to pull that sensor right out there. And then we've got our pulser underneath here, and so that wire is going to have to stay right there at that point. Now, 8mm socket, we're going to start removing these bolts here. We've got our clutch cover here. All right, our clutch cover is ready to pull off. A lot of times you can actually take and spin this little arm thing. That'll a lot of times kind of pry that cover off of there. You can at least get your fingers under there and pry this off. There we go. And we're actually going to take and just dump all these bolts out. So keep track of them. You want to make sure that you have all of them when you're going back together. You also want to make sure that this gasket is good. Replace it if you've removed this cover. Don't try using these gaskets. It's not worth the $3 that you're saving to have an oil leak. You've got to pull this cover off, drain your oil, your 3.8 quarts, and it's just not worth it. Replace your gasket, okay? Pretty easy to do. We've got our clutch underneath of here. Now, my question is, can we pull this clutch off of here without splitting the case? What do you guys think? Comment below. I bet we're going to find out, but I'd still like to hear your comments. Have you guys done it? Now, I know that we can remove these plates, rebuild our clutch plates, and put new springs in here without splitting our case. Can we remove that clutch basket? It is going to be so close. Your clearance right here is going to be very, very tight, okay? We've got our spark or pulser coil over here. You want to make, whoops, I just dropped something down in there. That's a wire keeper there that I dropped. I take a screwdriver, tap on that, because all you got to do a lot of times is break a seal free. So there's what is creating the spark, or telling your bike when to spark, which coil and when. So you want to make sure you've got a good seal on here. You do not want water in this area, or you're going to have some major damage. The other thing in behind here is your cam chain, also your cam guide. We can actually get to that guide at this point here. Grab an 8mm, remove this 8mm bolt and your guide will be able to slide up just a little bit. No, I didn't think that was going to be able to slide out. I knew what I was doing. 17mm bolt here. And again, grab that cam chain. You do not want this cam chain spinning over and damaging your crankcase. So if I grab it, hang on to it, that way your motor doesn't turn over. We can remove this little plate right here, and then you can remove your guide. You've got to be patient. You tried removing that guide way too soon. So we've got this gear here. It'll only go on one direction, so don't feel like you're gonna screw this up. You can't actually, unless you use a sledgehammer, you will not be able to get this gear on the wrong direction. So there's a flat spot there. It's only gonna go on one direction. There it is there. Now we've got our cam chain that is actually not going to come off. Seriously? Okay, setting that aside, going back to my question, can we get this clutch basket off? I'm gonna grab a Allen wrench. I'm gonna loosen this up. Again, being really careful because we weren't able to get that cam chain off. You could actually take and hold your motor this way. I wouldn't suggest it. It's a lot of work, but you don't want your cam chain binding right there. Okay, I'm actually gonna use a impact. Use an impact on these. It'll kind of save you from having to wrestle your motor. These springs are enormous. Not very often do you see springs that big on a clutch. You want to make sure your Allen's down in there and in good position to remove these. You don't want to remove them. You don't want to spin that Allen off in there. You're going to create quite a headache for yourself. Bolt is removed. Set that aside. Lift this plate off of here. Now I'm still wondering, can we get this clutch basket off of here without splitting the case? That's my question. There is a hub plate. That's what they call that. You've got a pin here. This is when you pull your clutch lever, you're actually pushing against this, which is pushing against this, pulling this in or out, releasing or engaging your clutch. You want to make sure that that plate is in good condition and doing its job. Underneath of here, you've got a large nut. You want to make sure that that goes on, make sure it goes on properly, make sure that it gets, I like to thread lock them. I don't know, maybe some people don't. That large nut there is a 1 3/16 inch socket. Okay, got the nut off of there. That was a bit of a challenge. And now what we're gonna do is see if we can remove this basket without splitting the case. Okay, I think not. Now, next thing we can do. What I'm gonna do, put this plate back on here. Okay, if all we're doing is replacing our clutch plates here, it's easy. We can do that at this point. We don't need to remove that clutch basket. But I would like to remove that clutch basket. So, slide this back on, get it into place there. And sometimes this takes a little bit. These can be a little bit of a challenge. There we go. Slide that into place. Now put our springs back in and our very long bolts. Just blown away at these. Now, what I like to do is get these started before we use an impact, because if you start these using an impact and you start by cross-threading them, you've completely screwed up your clutch basket, and you do not want to do that. These baskets aren't cheap, and we've possibly seen that you cannot replace this basket without splitting this motor. So, tighten that up, tighten that up, that up. Boy, those are long. Okay, now what we can do is remove this entire clutch pack assembly. So we've got all of the plates, steel and friction plates there. We've got the front basket, the front hub and the back hub. We've got a large washer here. We've got our nut that's here that we didn't put back in there. So we've got that entire assembly. Now, the next thing that we can do is actually remove, there's a very large spacer in here. And we can actually, this is threaded, so you can put a bolt in there. Or what I like to do is just take a pick and pull this out. This spacer will come out. That'll slide that basket over. You can lift that basket out. Now you've got bearings. You heard that fall down in there. You've got a bearing here that's going to slide out of place. But this spacer is what keeps you from actually being able to pull that basket off of there. So quick trick there. You don't actually have to split your case. to put a new basket in there. Now, your plates are going to wear out far quicker than your basket is going to. So make sure you get those plates removed and replaced before it destroys your basket. So you want to make sure that you get that done. Okay.